Yeah, so thank you, Andrew, in the first place for inviting me to come over here. It's a pleasure to be here. Because end of last year in October, I met Vonu when she gave a presentation in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. So then she told about the Urban Big Data Center. So then I said, wow, that's quite a coincidence because we just started a Center for Big Data Statistics in the Netherlands. We also started Urban Data Centers in the Netherlands, and you have it all together in one place. So let's see what you can do together. So we're now talking about actual collaboration. So in this presentation, I won't focus on the Center for Big Data Statistics, but I will say something about the urban data centers. And I prepared this together with Gabi Rasses from the city of Eindhoven. She can't be here due to health issues, but I'll present some of the things that we do together with Eindhoven. So the second half of my presentation, I talk about standards, but I thought it would be good also to mention something in a bit broader context, so you can understand why we are interested in these standards. And first start with introducing what CBS is about. So local statistics becoming more important in urban data centers and these standards. So about CBS, now of course you know the Netherlands. We all walk on wooden shoes there, which I had to hand in at the airport, so I don't have them now. So we all ride bicycles. I come back to that later. So you should try to ride a bicycle with wooden shoes on for one time. So one of the good things about the Netherlands is that we have a Central Bureau for Statistics, CBS. In the UK, the situation is a bit more scattered, with the ONS covering only 1/3 of the official statistics, and the other parts being covered by other government organizations. So it's a challenge to get standardization inside statistics already there. But we produce, say, 99% of official statistics in the Netherlands. We also established in 1899. So a trick question is always how many offices we have. We have one in Heerlen, one in The Hague. So quite similar in size. And we have a third one in the Caribbean, because some former colonies of the Netherlands chose to stay inside the Netherlands as special municipalities. So we also take care of statistics there. So only 3 people working there, but still. Altogether we have 2,000 employees, and I don't want to go through all these figures here. So we're very active in producing statistics, of course, and also in communicating statistics. That's a focal area for us, which you can see in the last 3 things. So in the past we always focused on national figures. So if you do sample surveys, then you're restricted by the opportunities given by the samples. So if you want to have a sample that covers also local needs, then it needs to be huge. So that's too costly, so we didn't do that. But fortunately in the Netherlands we also have a lot of administrative registers from government, so we can do a lot more there. And we also see that there's a growing need for local and regional statistics. So we now for one of the focal areas to devote more attention to local statistical needs. So one thing we already have, and here's www.cbsinubuurt.nl. That's the internet site where we have it. So already a lot of existing statistical information on local level, which goes down to almost street level. So it's really detailed. So if you think you're confident about Dutch, then you can have a try there to look at it. Unfortunately, it's not in English. Most of our site is translated in English, but not this one, because it targets the local Dutch audience. So that's traditional statistics. One other thing that we're working on is also trying to improve our statistical program with using big data. I can give quite a number of examples that we're already working, but I singled out this one now, using mobile phone telephone data. We work together with Vodafone, which has 1/3 of the market share in the Netherlands. Mesure is a small startup which acts as an intermediary pre-processing the Vodafone data called detailed records. And one of the things that we try to do with it is what we call the data and population. So we have an exhaustive population register in the Netherlands, so assuming that people always sleep at where they're registered, we have an idea of the nighttime population. But where people are during the day, commuting or shopping or whatever they do, we don't know so well. So this is a picture which is slightly older for a typical Tuesday. So what you see in the middle of the day, the big the areas like Amsterdam, for example, in the south you have Eindhoven, in the north you have Groningen. Those are the areas where people move in, so the red areas. The blue areas are the commuter areas where you see that people move out. So this is this really interesting to produce these pictures. One of our challenges is to validate it. How can you be sure that this is right? So if you want to use for policy goals, then you must be sure that these are the true figures, of course. Another challenge is how to present it, because in the tradition we produce tables. Now imagine how you make a table out of this: 400 municipalities times all the hours and so on. And, how do you do it? So a map works much better, but that's new for us. And then the level of details and usefulness is also a question. So we talk with people in The Hague, for example, say, well, it's nice that you have figures for The Hague, but what we really want to know is where people are during the daytime. For example, if tourists are going to the beach in Scheveningen at the daytime and then spend the evening in the city center, so they want more detail. So the question is, how far can we go? So, how good will the quality still be of that kind of data? So there's a link there which has a slightly better picture, but I don't present that here. So those are things that we're already doing. But then we thought, also based on this experience of talking with local authorities, so we should increase our work in really actively working together with local governments. So then last year in July, the idea came up of urban data centers. First by discussing with people from Eindhoven, which is one of the largest cities in the Netherlands. So according to Trevor, it would be called the middle-sized city in the UK, I think, but in the Netherlands it's still a bit larger. So what we said, well, why don't we not try to set up an instrument where we work together, which is called the Urban Data Center, with local authorities. It has a physical presence in the municipality. The blue thing there is an impression. It's a video clip that shows how it looks like, so it's really physical space. And then what you can do is combine our strengths with the local policy needs. So we have a lot of data, we have a lot of expertise in using and analyze these data, but we don't know where the real needs are. So we have to talk with people about what they really want to know and how we can help them. And then the first data center was established in September last year. So mind you, the idea came up in July. In September we established the first data center. The data center is record speed for Dutch government, that kind of things. You usually work on the time scale, which is much slower. But, so some characteristics of Eindhoven, like 225,000 inhabitants, so comparable to Petersburg. The area itself is a bit bigger, the agglomeration. Philips, the electronics company, was based there, but now they moved their headquarters to Amsterdam because that's more sexy and close to the financial quarters. And it's also, it always depends on what kind of, how you count it. It was considered the smartest region in the world according to one query then. And I've also seen others more recent where they also said it's a very active and innovative region. So that's where we started. And then the next picture showed a bit of the kind of things that we're doing. Poverty is always an issue, not only in Eindhoven, but we found out that mostly all the cities in the Netherlands have issues there. So we worked with The Hague, we worked with Amsterdam, with Tilburg and Eindhoven, and more to sort out from our data how we can help to understand poverty in the municipality. In The Hague, for example, the working poor was an issue that they know which people live on allowances because they are on their lists, so they know them. They don't know who are the working poor. We do know that because we have a registry of wages and salaries, so we can single out people living in The Hague or in Eindhoven that live on low incomes. So self-employed people and so on. So fighting poverty is one thing where we worked together with them. Another thing is they want to support people who have electric cars, which also came up in the Glasgow presentation just before the break. So you need to have these plugs where people can charge their cars. But where to put these poles where you can charge the cars? What we know, and Eindhoven did not know, is where are the electric cars? And then what you can see is a picture of Eindhoven, where you see where the concentration of cars are. So you can save a bit of money by not placing poles in the areas where people don't have electric cars. Or you can for example, also have special stimulation policies. But this is also something based on information that we have. Another thing, this is about the turnover of hotels, restaurants, and bars, and so on. So people in Eindhoven, the entrepreneurs were complaining. Well, we see that our turnover is not performing well. So they asked us to make comparison between the Netherlands with the black line. So it's an index starting from 100 in 2010 to up to 117 or 18 in 2015 for the Netherlands, the black one. And you can see here in the center of Eindhoven the blue line, and the whole of Eindhoven the white line. So it behaves differently. So that gives substance to the claim of the local entrepreneurs that there's something happening there in their area of. So this also helps the municipality to formulate policies what to do about it. So those were a couple of examples, and then I move on to the ISO standard. So this idea of urban data center has now turned out to be quite successful. So Eindhoven was first. We now opened urban data centers in Heerlen, where we also have an office. We had not even opened Eindhoven, and Heerlen already asked us, oh no, please, we also want an urban data center. Groningen was third one, Venlo, and we now talk with The Hague and Zwolle. Also for them, dates have already been set for opening the urban data center in June and July, and there's several more cities where we're negotiating at the moment, but something like 10 or so, but I did not plot them here because it's not decided yet. So this concept works quite well. In every case it's slightly different because, for example, in Eindhoven they don't have their own statistical office. In Groningen they do have their own statistical office, so they can cover part of their needs, so then we focus on other things there. So now I come to the standards part. This is a picture from the World Council on City Data which we work, and also there it's hard to see. There's a clip from them. This is a still from that clip. So one thing that the World Council on City Data does is promote the ISO 37120 standard, which is, as far as I know, a kind of stealing from the British standard. PAS 180, I think, is where this comes from, but I'm not completely sure that because I don't know really the history. But I think the UK has had a lot of influence in promoting this standard. And also the World Bank has asked for this, so they wanted to have something to measure sustainable development at local level. That's what the standard is about, all across the world. So it's quite broad, 100 indicators in 17 themes. So for governance, for example, which is in the top middle, so one of the questions there is the ratio between male and female officers working for local government. There's indicators which ask something about wastewater, so the response times to fire alarms. There are all kinds of things that are relevant to this sustainability questions. So these are the cities that now have been certified by the World Council on City Data. In the UK, here it says only London. I think there's quite a couple more, but I'm not completely sure about that. But you can see already this has worldwide coverage, and it's growing. So what we did is establish a connection with the World Council on City Data. So we chose them because there's a professional organization behind it, and there's several more standards, which is always a challenge in standard. In standards, you have city keys and whatever. So it's. But we chose them because we thought, well, the ISO is behind this. World Council on City Data is professional, so we can work with them. Contact was established at where this picture was taken. People on the right is our Director General, so the highest boss of CBS. In the middle is Patricia McCartney, the President of World Council on City Data, and the person on the left you probably know. So you organized an event on sustainability where we agreed to cooperate. But actually this was from summer last year. So already a year before, August 2015, I became a member of a Dutch group working on this ISO standard, trying to find out how to implement it in the Netherlands. So in that group I said, well, probably CBS can take the lead there because we can produce already a lot of these indicators from what we have in-house. And now we certified Heerlen and Eindhoven. Actually, we certified them at the highest level in a very short time, only 3 weeks. Amsterdam and The Hague, not Amsterdam and The Hague, Amsterdam and Rotterdam did it with their own resources. They took 3 months, and Amsterdam only reached aspirational level, for example. But here's so our expertise that we already have the data in-house that works. The Hague and Zwolle will also be certified. And we're now also talking with the Union of the Dutch Municipalities, representing 400 municipalities, of a bulk certification, so to certify the whole country in one step, basically. So this is what you see here in the picture is Patricia McCartney again with two officials from Eindhoven, very proud, showing their platinum certificate. So, like I said, with mostly CBS data, and due to the broad nature of all these indicators, we had to go through all the organizations. So we have subject matter departments where you can find 2 indicators, then you go to the next one, and so on. So we also had to get information from Eindhoven. So, for example, this indicator on male-female ratios, we had to extract it from their own information, obviously. Then we had to the environmental agency, the police, and several more organizations who also have some other indicators. So in many cases we already had them in-house from this very the big database of local information, but we also had to create some indicators from the microdata that we have in-house. And this, like I said, we did it very quickly because we had to, but it also took some people to work at unusual hours to make it happen. So, but we did it. So this one example about the indicators that you have here, kind of thing that WCCD does with it. So here are cities that are certified. Orange are the Dutch cities. So, and this is about bicycle lanes per 100,000 people living in the city. So, like you can expect, the Netherlands is in the right half. London is also something there, I think. I don't see it now. Oh yeah, London is there. I think 8 or so from left. So that's not performing very well. But as expected, the Netherlands are doing relatively well in bicycle lanes. So this indicator is meant to show the dependence on carbon-based transportation and so on, and how easy or difficult it will be to move away from cars as transport means. So what the World Council also does is give cities the opportunity to highlight a single indicator, one at a time. And Dutch city of Rotterdam then chose these bicycle lanes, so we don't have an indicator on wooden shoes, unfortunately. So, and then the next question is also a question that came up several times today, is how to make it useful. Because one thing to have a standard, but the next thing is then what can we do with it? And what I see is there's several interests in the standards. At the top level, at the government level, so the mayor and the aldermen of the city, they are interested in the certificate. So they want to show for PR reasons we are certified. But they're not the people who work with it. And if you work with it, it's also, I think Trevor mentioned it, then on one level you have to deal with people in operation who ask for real-time data. You have people who work in policy areas who are satisfied with less frequent data, and people in strategy who only have longer-term concerns. So you need to find out which are the people that are interested here. I think due to the frequency, this update once a year, this is not interesting for the operations people. But then in Eindhoven there's something else, a district thermometer, which is very much focused on operations. So what we want to do is try to find out how we can combine this. It's really work in progress. And also this be done by Eindhoven itself, so I cannot give too many details here. They already had a district thermometer, which was developed internally. I've also seen that several more cities have something similar, so a local dashboard or app or whatever to show what is the local situation, and then they focus always on what's happening inside the city, not on the whole city, but they want to know what's happening in the districts or the neighborhoods. So they here have 4 areas: safety, social domain, economic indicators, and spatial indicators. 50 altogether in 88 districts. And what they want to do, it's this is more detailed, but I didn't translate this one, is also to give this to the general public and then ask them to comment on it, or they can show how their neighborhood is performing in comparison to others. This is also in Dutch. Buurt thermometer is the Dutch version of district thermometer. It's an app which you can go to on the internet. It's very interactive, so then you can show all these quadrants that we had on the previous picture. They turn into blue or green or red or yellow colors depending on the situation in your neighborhood. So you can imagine that the well-doing the districts they are all green, and the less well the well-doing areas they're all in red. So you can see that, and yeah, it gives an idea about what's the situation in their area. So this thermometers to give an impression about what's really happening. And what we now want to do is to find out how we can break down this ISO standard, connect it to the data we have here, to have an integrated framework of indicators, because that's always what we strive for, to have something that makes sense in combinations. So that's what we want to do now, to combine these global and local standards. The global you can use for benchmarking, as I showed, but also local you can use for benchmarking. But what we have to do is find users at the right levels, talk with people who are possible users and what are the needs. We also want to engage citizens. So this app that I showed before is already an attempt to engage citizens. It works quite well in Eindhoven, from what I understand, but you can do probably more. And we also want to try to look at new ISO standards. There's 1 to 2 is about resilience, I think, and 1 to 3 is about smart cities, or the other way around. But these are new developments that we also are looking into how we can put them into use. So basically, this is what I wanted to say. This is a picture from the PR department from Eindhoven, as you can imagine. And this is the end of my presentation. So thank you for your attention.
Thanks very much, Barteld. Any questions, comments following on from that?
Was that line graph restaurants?
Excuse me. This one, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is Philips engineers and Charles data scientists not having a laugh.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
They just don't go out.
Yeah, but the funny thing is from 2013 onwards, you have the same behavior as on a national level. And in the years between the 11, 12, and 13, before 10, 11, the center was doing better, the whole of Eindhoven doing a bit less. But then you had this dip. So in your interpretation, can you explain that? Did they find their lives? Or?
You probably find that the Philips MD changed then.
Yeah, because you're right. In fact, that's the next level to find out what's behind this. Why did this happen? And also that's further analysis, of course. But we can try to find from the other data sets that we have to find explanations here.
Any other questions? I'll give you the mic for the recording.
In the thermometer?
Yeah.
So you're using the indicators from the ISO framework?
No, not yet at the moment. At the moment, this is. Yeah, what you see here is on the left you have the ISO standards, which comes with its own indicators. On the right we have the Buurt thermometer or district thermometer, which was already in place from 2014 onwards. So the challenge now is that we're trying to do is integrate data from both. So how can we make a connection? So we are suitable between both worlds. We have not done that yet, but we want to make that connection to improve the policy uses of these data sets.
So for the district thermometer, where did those concepts, those indicators come from? Were they developed and were they co-produced, or were they more or less imposed by the municipality?
They were invented by local government, by people working there. So I don't know the process. There are reports about that, but it was developed by Eindhoven itself, and that's one of the issues. I think it's good to have something like this, but I know that not only Eindhoven does this, but Rotterdam is very active in creating dashboards which are useful for local applications. So Groningen is active in that area. Amsterdam is doing that. So all these cities, they're doing it on their own. So on one hand, it's good to have because it's specific for the local needs and has a local fan base, you could say. On the other hand, it makes comparability quite impossible. And you see it also in other areas. So what I showed about poverty, we found out that Amsterdam, the Hague, Eindhoven, Tilburg, they all have their own poverty monitors. They all even have their own definitions of poverty, for what does poverty mean. And they use different variables and indicators to show what's happening there. So one of the roles that we want to play is to integrate that and to come to standards that are applicable at national level, or maybe even beyond, because we now also discussing with the United Nations if we can promote this concept in a wider setting.
Any further questions? I was wondering, just obviously it's striking how quickly you managed to pull together the data for the certification for Heerlen and also for Rotterdam. That was also 3 weeks.
Heerlen and Eindhoven.
And Eindhoven. Are there particular characteristics of the Dutch system that made that possible, or is that a feasible target for other settings, do you think?
Yeah, partly it's cheating a bit. Because as I said, so we start to work on this in August 2015. Then we did a kind of dry swimming exercises to check, we can do this, or we can do that. So we probably have this. So we already looked into the standard, what it takes. But then when we decided actually to compute the figures, then we had only 3 weeks to do it. But because we prepared it, so we were quite sure that we could do it. But then doing the actual work and using the figures and also having the certification in place, that was 3 weeks. And I think it's partly due to the preparation, partly due to what I said before, that we have a centralized system in the Netherlands for statistics. So because we have a quite a good overview of what's happening in statistics in the Netherlands, so we can organize that. I think that for ONS they have very good people obviously, but they're in a different position in the different governance environment. So then it would be more challenging to get everything together and to organize it.
Thanks. Any other questions for Barteld? No? Okay. Join me in thanking him for his presentation.